for the citizens who went out to vote, I'll just quickly touch on that before we'll come to, the result and those governors. But I just wanted to mention for them, how much or how significant is their rating of this process? I know that the courts will eventually decide, but speaking to citizens, you hear some of them saying, well, I didn't enjoy the process. I mean, I've even seen videos. That is really contestable, the act in that video of people, treating, for example, their passport with disdain. I don't know if you've seen some of those clips on social media. Some will say that is really extreme. I mean, the law is also clear about how you should treat documents like that. But I know it speaks to a certain, the feelings of a lot of Nigerians. And I just wanted to know just how significant it is it, and what do we do with that feeling? I think that's the important point here. What do we do with that feeling of discontent, disappointment, letdown that some have right now?
Well, Coyote, you see, this election, this particular elections, the 2023 general elections, it's not the election that Nigerians expected, and it's not the elections that Nigerians deserve. And that's our conclusion at Young Africa. And the reasons are just clear. And I'm not referring to the outcome of the elections. It's about the process. And because, one, if you look at how the process was managed, and in the build-up to the elections, we did publish, the election manipulation risk index. Let's even take the governorship elections. How do you explain to a Nigerian who went through the troubles of getting registered, waiting for months, queued up to collect their permanent voter's card, were getting ready to then cast their vote, and on their way to the polling station or their polling unit, a group of people prevent them from accessing the polling unit because they look like a certain class of people who will not vote for candidates of their choice? Or how do you expect? And I was watching channels on Saturday where, Olu Phillips interviewed a particular voter. And I broke down just listening to that man when he spoke about his experience with the presidential elections. That after queuing up, they cast their votes, and then just when it was time for the collation process or the counting of ballots, thugs came, carted away with the ballot papers, or in that particular polling unit, they destroyed them and set those ballot papers on fire. This is the kind of harrowing experiences that people, went through in the course of this election. And so if people feel very angry about the way this process has been managed, they have a right to do so. In the presidential elections, the IREV and the Beavers, we must not forget how citizens fought. They struggled and they advocated for these tools. The National Assembly, at some points, jettisoned the provisions on the transmission of results. It took public outcry, and so citizens won this battle, and their lawmakers listened to them. Only for the day of elections, the IREV didn't function. Now it functions. But I don't think we should move away. That yes, even though the IREV functioned in governorship election, there has to be accountability for whoever or the group of persons who made it impossible for the IREV to transmit, results during the presidential elections. And let's not gloss over this and just move on from this. There are fundamental questions that need to be answered, and people need to be held, to account. If you come down, to this anger, it is right. And I don't think people should, trivialize how Nigerians feel about this election, because it's their election. And so they have a right to feel this way. And I see opportunities in the anger expressed by citizens. It tells us something, that Nigerians still care about this country. Nigerians still have faith about this country. That's why they are angry. That's why they care. But where do we move from here? This anger is important, for reforms. And I'd say that this is not a time, to get discouraged, because it could have gotten worse. It could have been worse. And we celebrate some of the, the positive sides of this. But then how we move from here is critical. There are reforms that are fundamental to inspire confidence. And I say that in this governorship election, yes, INEC has shown that these systems that have been put in place, if they work optimally, they can confer integrity and deepen the integrity of the electoral process. You need to have that audit. You need to build national consensus. But I really want to encourage, stakeholders, but in particular, the Nigerian voters out there, that if you look across board, there were some upsets. Those upsets happened. One of the reasons why they happened was because you as a voter showed up, you spoke. Secondly, the resilience of citizens in the course of this election is something that we should celebrate. That we talk about some of these infractions, we talk about some of these anomalies and irregularities was because citizens spoke. If they had kept quiet and kept mute, we wouldn't have been talking about this. And so that resilience is what Nigeria needs to leapfrog from this particular place that we find ourselves. And so hope must never die. There's still a lot of work that we need to do. But this is the time, like it said, in our national anthem, "Arise, O compatriots." This is the time, to rise against, this sort of, I would say, whether looming democratic backsliding. And I think that we have the power to do so.